We're now live, Jeff.
Are we live?
Yeah.
And is Rose there?
Yes.
Hello, Rose.
Hello, David. Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm on Zoom, and also my camera's not working. So I'm following along as best I can. So
that's okay. It's really good to have you. Just please feel free to chip. I know it's difficult when you're the only person on Zoom, but please feel free to just shout.
Thank you, David.
At any point. So we have apologies from Dilip and from Zvi, and as I said, from Tony. I think that's it on apologies, is it, Jack?
Rosanna will see you.
Oh, Rosanna. Yeah.
And Claire, because she's still on maternity.
Is she still on maternity?
That's what she said in her email. Yes.
How many children is she having?
She is stretching this one out.
You don't have them consecutively.
Oh,
No.
no one's explained. Okay, so we welcome new Group D members very much. Congratulations on your appointment or reappointment, and really look forward to working with you. Group B members, we're looking for Church of England people, but Val not having much success, I think.
Not at all, no. I've tried 4 different recommended sources and none are available. All too busy.
So we do need another Group B person. We have obviously Mary and Val, and so if anyone has any Church of England contacts that they think they can tap up, that would be really good.
In West Berkshire.
Yeah.
Well, ideally,
Mm.
we do have Dilip, who's based in Bracknell, but ideally West Berkshire, I think.
Do they need any other sort of qualifications?
An interest in education?
An interest, yes.
But I don't know, what would you say about that, Val, from a CAV perspective?
Yeah, well, no, I'd say practicing CAV because we've got the other faith members here, haven't we? So really,
Yeah.
I think so.
And the other thing to say about membership is really from you, Rose, isn't it? You were saying about the local authority advisor. Would you like to say that to us all?
Yes, I'm really sorry about this. The head teacher who I'd lined up, who's going to be part of the team, has now told me she doesn't have capacity. So we're back to square one, David, really. And due to the fact that this is the last meeting of the year, isn't it?
Yes.
I'll be looking to try and source a head teacher for September.
That would be great.
So I'm really sorry it hasn't worked out this year.
Yeah. No, we do miss having a LA advisor. Do you have any ideas up your sleeve, Rose, or anything?
There is one school who has just had an Ofsted, and it's a church school, so they've got more capacity. I'll be writing to her this week and see whether she's got capacity now. Whether her head isn't quite so full now of the impending visit because it's happened. So yeah, I'll let you know, David, if I get a
Thank you so much.
response. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, anything else on membership? Shall we move on to the last minutes to sign and approve from 21st of February, which we held on Zoom, I think. Everyone happy with those?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We'll sign and approve those. And then on the actions, so I have to confess to having not done an action that I said I would do, which was I was going to go around each of you and ask if you would contact schools about collective worship, which I haven't done. And it's partly that we also had an action that was between David and myself, I think, and I think it might have fallen between us about consulting other sacres about what they do about collective worship. For new members, basically, the thing here is that we spend most of our time talking about RE, but our remit is actually collective worship as well. And I think we've just become a bit aware, haven't we, that we need to do a little bit more for collective worship, and we're trying to address that. So, David, I don't know whether you feel that is there scope for consulting other sacros about how they do this?
I have consulted the ones that I'm on and have been on, and people I know are on different ones. And there are some ways in which there's a different picture going on with all of them, and some ways in which there's one thread that runs through it all. And the thread that runs through it all is that nobody really knows what to do. And part of the reason for that is there's ongoing dialogue about whether it's going to continue at all. There's been some rumblings about that. Obviously, whoever makes a decision about that nationally, there'll be some fallout either way. Some sacres are waiting for NASACA to update their advice and guidance. A couple of sacres in the past, Bournemouth and Christchurch, when they worked together, they actually put out a document, and it was huge, because we had a Church of England vicar who was part of the sacre, who took a keen interest in it when he was in a previous sacre. So he produced a big document, and I pared that down to one side of A4 for one of my sacres just to circulate. And it's just basic advice and guidance, but there was all sorts of stuff on there about visits and visitors and what collective worship is and what it isn't. So that could be useful for us to have a look at, although now it is a few years old. But I think most of the time people genuinely don't really know what to do and are fearful of approaching schools about it for a couple of reasons. One, it's way down the list of priorities, I should imagine, for schools who are super busy with all sorts of other things that they're going to get looked at more for, to be honest, data and all that sort of nonsense. And secondly, if you do approach a school, as you know, if you're going to get something back from it, it'll be from the schools who are doing it well. If they're not doing it, they're not going to confess to it because they don't have to. And they're not necessarily going to take the time to fill in a form if we send one. So it is an unclear picture. For all I'd say to reassure us is that we're not alone in struggling with knowing what to do. I mean, we can send something out, but I'd be very surprised if we got much back.
Yeah.
Are you looking for something akin to the Willink document? Because that was a pretty bland, my work there, but it's a fairly bland document in terms of what is done. Is that the sort of thing you're after, or are you looking for more substance?
Well, these things do often tend to be quite bland, because what you're trying to do is ask what they're doing without making it sound like you're checking up on them. Because as we know, schools are quite rightly a little bit paranoid because they're being looked at every minute of every day.
Being a local authority school, I think it's the only one in West Berkshire, secondary one in West Berkshire. I guess there was the duty to publish it anyway, which all the other schools I think are academised. So
Yeah,
Not quite.
They're not.
not
Paul, what, from your experience at Kennet then, I'm sure you probably had reams of written material on assemblies and
Okay,
all of that.
I don't know what everyone's background is. Maybe 2 sentences about that might be good. But I ran 6 different schools. Kennet was the main one. Another secondary school, lots of primary schools. Oh, and another secondary school for the People's Republic of Reading for a while. But that was. I think actually, don't send school forms. Don't send them bits of paper. Go and see them. Somebody go and see them. Explain what we're about. Yeah, there is words like paranoid. I don't get right. People are careful because they know what the law is, but the law is honoured in its omissions quite often. But I mean, well, you know, I don't think it's still changed in the last couple of years. You know, Kennet, which happens to be the school that I was head of for 30 years. That we had all sorts of things going on, but wouldn't necessarily put them all in writing. And of course, it depends all the time about changing personnel.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a head of RE who doesn't believe in Christmas, you've got a problem. There's all sorts of things like that. There's a local scandal in the school. So if you want to find out what's going on, the right approach to the head, I'm sure would be one. Especially if it's to inform the work of this important group. The head, they might delegate it, but that doesn't matter.
Apologies, I should have asked you to introduce themselves. I meant to. Should we just quickly do that since you've raised that? Chris, do you want to quickly just start?
Chris Ward from the Willink School.
I'm Amanda Bedding at Capital Junior School.
I'm David Rees. I'm the advisor to Sacre.
I'm Jack Creamy. I'm the clerk to Sacre.
I'm Mary Stack. I was a teacher.
On a very good one, I found this. Well, I'm a newly elected councillor. I was a head for 30 years, a teacher for 12 before that, and I do all sorts of other things, mostly in charities. But it's an honour to be appointed to this group.
My name's Billy Drummond. I've been a local councillor for 23 years. That's it.
I'm Berkshire. I work as a procurement manager for different organizations, and I'm also the Imam of the Newbury Mosque. So represent Islam in this group.
Val Bowen, retired teacher, worship at St George's Church of England.
You really have for me.
So I'm David Taylor and I chair the group, and it's a privilege to do that too. Sorry, I should have done that at the beginning. Mary, what about you then and assemblies? Because the primary experience is very different, of course.
It is, and I think it changed a lot over COVID. Pre-COVID, we used to have an assembly every day. And I think that was the whole school, not necessarily in the same hall. We used to split it because it's primary. But every child used to go in the hall with their peers and have some kind of assembly. And for many years, I ran the collective. I did collective worship at the school. I was the coordinator, so I did the planning for it, and I made sure it was balanced between different faiths and different faith stories, and also the sort of PSHE side of it. And it worked quite well, I felt, and of course had some music in it. And but over COVID, of course, we couldn't meet in the hall as such, and it went very much to Zoom. And I noticed that we had arranged with every member of staff, unless they elected not to, took an assembly. They went on the rota unless they told me they couldn't, because that they were allowed to. So every member of staff had always, led an assembly a couple of times. So over COVID, it was just senior leadership who led the assemblies, and they became very much PSHE led. There wasn't much in the way of faith. We did use some of the things from the Baptist church that were sent out, perhaps once a week that happened. But the emphasis very much went to the PSHE side of life, really, rather than the faith base. It wasn't. I didn't feel it was quite as rich.
I think our concern here is to make sure that we're fulfilling our responsibility to encourage people to do collective worship and to do it in some sort of meaningful way. I mean, I've been in Kennet School this lunchtime again, and it takes the children 6 minutes to get in, 6 minutes to get out. And once you've got that slot in the middle of 5 minutes, you use it somehow. So it's what our role is in that as a sacre. I think Paul's absolutely right about approaching schools individually, if you can. That's the best way, isn't it? What about you, Amanda? Because you're
so quite a similar experience. Before COVID, the assemblies were happening regularly, although we are quite a diverse school, so we focus more on the PSHE side and introduce all different faiths into our assemblies. And then obviously COVID happened, went online, and so now we're doing much better than we were. We do actually meet 3 times in the hall a week, sometimes 4, but we still have one online one a week, which is our class assembly. But it is very much a more PSHE focused than a faith focus in our school. And speaking to other primary school teachers, they are finding that as well.
Can I ask you, where did you teach again, Amanda?
Calcutta Junior School.
Thank you.
So if I was to do what I should have done at last meeting and email you all after this meeting and say, here are 5 primary schools, would you get in touch with them and see what's going on? Would you be able to do that? Because I think between us all, we could cover the whole. There are 60 primary schools in West Berkshire. We could cover the whole thing, hopefully without too much trouble. That would be so helpful, I think, if I could. And I would. Sorry, Rose. This is what the trouble with this. I keep ignoring the online person. Would you like to introduce yourself, Rose?
Yes, hello. Hi, I'm Rose Carberry. I'm the Principal Advisor for School Improvement and Governance.
Thank you. Good to have you. Is this something you could join in, Rose, or are you too busy?
No, absolutely. I mean, what I will do anyway is I send out a kit email that has a whole host of issues and sort of links and resources, and it is something that I could send out, David, to see. I think you're probably right. It would be those schools that are comfortable and confident. There are quite a few schools who've had SIAMs in the last year, and their collective worship has been praised. So it might be that you get more of a response from them, but it's worth perhaps sending it out, even if it says, we will be contacting you in the next week or so, to give them a heads up. So I'm happy to do that for you too.
Thank you so much. Everyone know what SIAMs is? The church inspections?
Yeah. Can I say more? Just looking from the other way round. So in most secondary schools, there's a number of issues. A lot of teachers are not religious at all.
Yeah.
Not brought up in any faith. I mean, I happen to have been, so I knew the Bible, not inside out, but and other religious documents. I have plenty of material to use personally. The others didn't, and some heads will say, well, you've got to do it because you're the deputy, and others will say, fair enough, I'll do it or whatever. Obviously, you know that the schools I was at, we invited as many local religious figures as we could, and we used as much as we could. But then again, some churches, yours was a shining example, we're happy to come and do that. Others would not do it. So I think rather than think people are trying to hide things, yeah, they are slightly uneasy about it, but they need help actually, and they need good materials that they can use comfortably, because there's one more angle on it, and of course parents have the right to withdraw their children, do they not, from assembly effectively, if you like. Well, you don't want that. No school wants that. They don't want a little group of children excluded. So again, that's another pressure, if you like, to go PSE rather than religion. Although, where's the line between those two? If that helps.
Yeah. But it's the same thing in primaries. A lot of most primary staff don't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
And whereas people like me could become a regular worshipper, people like me could take an assembly or drop a hat and in an emergency and tell a lovely story from the Bible of any, most people couldn't. But when I planned it, I always used to plan the term. I put links in to material for them to
that
use.
helps something.
So nobody was ever left floundering that, So, and I think that's what we need really, or what schools need possibly. Possibly that's what they need.
Well, thank you. Let's
some kind of resource.
I mean, the great thing is, even on this group now, we've got experienced people who I think will be able to help with this going forward. So I'll do that then, if I may. I will pass them out the primary schools. I don't mind doing the secondary schools myself, actually, because I tend to be in touch with them a bit more.
Well, I know the head of RE.
Of course you do.
Little Heath, as well as obviously Willing.
Yeah, Willing, yes.
Do you know Little Heath as well? So I'll check with Joe Egan and see if he would be able to. He's been there a long time.
I bet Joe Egan's got some good material.
It'd be ward sensitive to the elected members.
Say again, sorry.
Ward sensitive.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Or you can.
Yes, I'll have a look and see what I've. Yes, good idea.
So will there be like a short perform of things you require afterwards? Again, it's be a. What
That
should
would
we
help,
ask?
wouldn't it? Well, what are we thinking? What do you currently do? Do you feel in need of support? Do you feel you have resources? Would you appreciate advice from someone else?
Are you aware of what it is you are meant to do?
Yes.
Barriers.
Yes. Can you note that down, Jack? Thank you. Splendid. Thank you very much. Equality and diversity, we always put on there. I don't have anything to say about that this time. Does anybody else? Okay. The Sacrate overview is something I produce once a year. It's really for new members. It's so that everyone knows what this committee is about and some little summary of how I think we're doing with what we're supposed to be doing. So that is in the pack on page 13. So it just gives our purpose, how we're seeking to achieve our purpose, and the big thing at the moment is the new syllabus, which is a year late, and it's a year late because of COVID. So our aim is to produce a new syllabus in 2024. And we work alongside the other 5 Berkshire Sacres. So we're very much part of the Sacre team in Berkshire, and we have the central group is called the Hub in this case, which I and David are part of, and we represent you on the Hub. And that's where a lot of our work takes place, actually, and certainly that's where a lot of our money goes, into the Hub. Various things down there, I've just put things that we do. Any questions really about that? Is it clear? I thought so. Yeah. Great. So I just produce it once a year so that people know what it's about, really. Right, then we get to the action plan for the current year, David.
Indeed, this is on page 11 and 12 of your pack, or the way it looks on my electronic platform. It's a familiar site, as for those who've been here for a little while. We have a mixture of the core business, the things we have to do, coming down from NASCA, and then we have the things we'd like to do, which is to support in B, and there's a section called C, which is about the Berkshire Hub. So if we just look at A first of all, and invite comments obviously as we go through. The things we have to do, of course, is chase up member vacancies, which we try to do as much as we can. And again, I'd just like to assure you that all the Sacres I'm on have difficulties with some areas. And actually, the Church of England is one of the big ones at the moment, just finding it difficult to recruit. And also in quite a lot of places, Roman Catholics as well, absolutely non-existent. Yeah, I don't know why. There's been lots of reaching out to various dioceses and just no engagement at all. So point 2 is that we have our meetings, and here we are. 3, we produce the annual report, which will start that process again next term. Reviewing the action plan as we do each time. So each time there are specific events that go on at certain times of the year. So if we look at point 5, which is to do subscription to NASCA, which is a really good organisational body which has updated its website recently. We have a sign-in password for that because we subscribe to it every year. There's a library of useful materials in there for Sacre members and advice and guidance and so on. And I know for a fact that they are looking to improve that and add to that. We have good relationships. I know the person who's in charge of NASCA. It already sounds now that the new people we've got coming in have got lots of experience with that as well. So that's great. I usually go to the NASCA conference, but this year's was actually face-to-face in London and I couldn't make it. I don't know, did anybody else go? Okay, because when it was online, it was obviously much easier in one sense to go. So I will try and find out. That happened in the middle of May. There are other events that are sort of Sacre focused during the year, one of which is the Southwest Sacre Conference. And this is a great example of how in the past we wouldn't have gone to this because it was based in Somerset. And I did used to go representing when I was on board with Christchurch and Paul. But now, since COVID, they actually cast the net further and are very happy for people to go. So this year's conference, I went to that as well, still virtual. It's hard, it's about £15, ridiculously small amount of money. And it was stuck full of really good Sacre-centric workshops. So I will always try to go along to that, and when I find out more, it'll probably be in March next year. I'll send details on it, and if anybody wants to come along to some of those sessions, then we will find some room to do that, I'm sure. It's really, really worthwhile because lots of conferences happen out there in RE, but very few target Sacre members and things that would be helpful to Sacres. So that's one that I'm always keen for us to support. Point 6 is monitoring the locally agreed syllabus, as David's explained, and there's more on that coming up later. It's a 5-year cycle, as many of us will know. There's all sorts of practices going on out there. There are some syllabuses that have been around for a very long time. Birmingham, for example, was from 2008, when they finally updated it this, I think, last year. It looks exactly the same. I don't know what they've done that's really different, but they really needed to change it, and I'm surprised they haven't. So there's lots of different models for us to look at when it comes to deciding what we're going to do. Actually, hub would be a big area for that. And monitoring and offering guidance on collective worship, as we talked about. Those are the things that we are charged to do, and the things that we try to do. Quite a lot of these things aren't quick fixes, and as we've just seen with collective worship, we're taking lots of advice but finding similar issues with many different sacraments about engagement and how can we offer support? Support can be. So when it comes to support, there are things that our budget provides us for. We're fortunate for that. We connect with RE leaders through primary networks. We have 2 of those term. And so what I usually do, as you can see on there, I put the dates of the ones that have happened. The next one's actually on the 28th of June. And also there's secondary networks as well, which are run in a slightly different way. The primary networks are run by me through SACRE. Secondary networks are run by, I think they just basically get together.
It's Paul Cameron now, Ken.
Yeah, that's right, Paul Cameron and Ken. And the next meeting on the 13th of June is actually at Kennet. I'm not sure I can make that one. It's, so I'll have a look at that, and I'll talk to Paul.
Maybe I can go instead.
That
13th of June.
13th of June is the date I've
I
got.
was just going to say, I'd be interested in going to it just
Oh,
for
fab.
um,
That'd be good.
other things that I'm doing related to this.
Absolutely, that would be great. So soon, I would imagine he will start to send things around, so it might be an idea. If I can dig out his email and send it to you both.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You Dr. Cameron at kennetschool.co.uk.
Okay, that's that sorted. Yeah. So yeah, the information from that should be coming through soon. Collect and distribute the termly newsletter, which we do, goes out second week of term. I avoid the first week of term for obvious reasons, because inboxes are what inboxes are. So by the second week, hopefully there's a little bit of capacity for them to have a look at that. And in there, it's, I don't want to say too much because obviously it's a separate agenda. And then C.
Sorry, could we get the newsletter?
Yes,
Press the
absolutely.
button,
It
yeah.
usually does go to everyone.
Oh, does it? Thank
So
you.
yeah, when I send it out, I'll always instruct to send it to everyone there. And also, just on that point, is if anyone has anything for it, as always, please send through to me any event or something you think schools would like to know. Then please do let me know. I'd love to put some sort of local flavour in. So then, yeah, C, to support the ongoing work of Pan Berkshire Hub. We have good relationship in the hub. It's a very disparate group of SACREs that work well together. But our big thing now is the syllabus, because there's lots of discussion and debate about what that will look like. We'll come to that later. So that's what the action plan looks like. Anybody wants to suggest I missed something or want clarification, please do speak. No?
Any questions about the action plan?
No. So,
Well, thank you, David, for producing that again. Really useful to have in front of us. And then that leads naturally onto the budget, which again is there in the pack, page 15. Well, I bring you the amazing news that our budget for 2023 has been increased from £4,840 to £5,000. So we have £160 to play with. The thing is, I only received that news today. I haven't had a chance to think about this at all. And what they've done this time is they've actually separated out the hub contribution. So it's £1,000 for the hub this time and £4,000 for everything else. So we did agree our budget in principle last time, but this is the meeting where we actually are supposed to agree it. Is there anything that you would like to add that you think would cost £150.
Oh, could we fund more share for the distance and tea?
I think we should.
You don't have to.
I mean, in previous budgets, I did include travel expenses if you're visiting a school, which I do, but I never reclaim the travel expenses because the process is ridiculous. So it's just not worth it. It's not worth my time doing it. But if there's anything else that you think, oh, I could do that, or I could buy that, or
Well, can we just leave it, David, as you've just introduced it?
yeah,
Something Claire may have a good idea.
That's
She
true.
always comes
Always
up with
a
a good
good
idea
idea.
when she comes back to us.
Presumably it's the contingency then becomes
yes,
£175 instead of £15.
I think that's 65. Yeah, that's right. Because 1,000, the Oxford diocese is now 1,000, and that would become 165.
When did that go from 900 then? Was that
This
the last
afternoon.
What the Oxford diocese have raised there?
I never know how they're working between each other, but I received the purchase order this afternoon from Bev Batty at the council,
Yes.
saying, here's the purchase order, £1,000 for the Oxford diocese, £4,000 for you, which I've just passed on to, well, I passed on that one to Anne, or I will do.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think they're just rounding up the figures.
Yeah, they might well be.
The separate item here, the separate budget is because we are producing a new syllabus, we get extra funding. So we have, since the last meeting, there's been a bit of to and fro between me and the council where I've said that we need more money. We always have more money for the syllabus. They've said how much do you want. And to be honest with you, I have picked a number out of the air based on, you know, what Anne Andrews has said to me and others. I said, well, give us 5,000 then. And they've said, okay, we will. Councillors, you might like to know
That's
this.
reassuring, isn't it? Yeah. That's a good cause.
It's a good cause. Indeed. So that goes into the pot, really, that Anne Andrews has for the new syllabus. And I've sent her that.
Do you need us to propose this then, or
I think I need someone to propose this.
I'll propose this?
Thank you very much.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Benny. Is everyone in favour of this budget?
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. It is obviously very highly weighted towards paying David for what he does, but we discussed this without David at the last meeting, and we were all very much in favour.
In total agreement.
Yeah, we were.
I can't go and wait in the street.
No. Done it once. Don't need to do it. And just on the NASICA membership fee, I confess in my life, I don't really have time for NASICA very much. But if any of you do, I think, because obviously you bring us a lot from NASICA, but there's a whole world of RE out there.
I think we've got Linda Rudge now, who's I think looking after NASICA. And she's got many hats on as well. She also runs REQN, which is really useful. It's a quality mark.
Mark.
Yeah. And I'm an assessor for REQN, so I often use the criteria there to help people audit their own RE department, because that's free. You can get hold of that as a free resource. I mean, REQN isn't free, it's £495 now, which is the main stumbling block for a lot of schools. But it's a nice bit of kudos and status for a school. So you do tend to need your SLT on board with that, because quite a lot of people don't have more than 50 quid for their RE in it. But the audit tool, which is freely available on the website, is really useful for our meetings. So I often bring that to networks just to show people what sort of things you're looking for. So she is a really good contact. She's in charge of that as well as and learn to use lead RE as well. She's involved in that.
I suppose I was just thinking if anybody, you mentioned the NASICA conference, if anybody wanted to try that out.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I think they'll be looking to go to keep it face to face. In a way, it's a shame because it's an AGM, and an AGM, as we know, isn't always fascinating. But the AGM does also give out awards, so SACREs can bid for extra money, which is what we did a few years ago to get real people, real faith.
Yeah.
it's interesting to see where those projects, which projects get rewarded and what comes out of that, because it should always be something that's useful. And that's why it's useful for us to be involved. It's £105 a year.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Let's use it. Lovely. Okay, thank you very much. I think that's item 9. Item 10 is the interesting bit, schools. So, Jack, does this mean if we're streaming, if we're zooming, do we need to turn this off for this item or come back to it later, or?
I can mute whenever you're in part 2.
Is that okay?
I think so. But yes, I think it would. Yeah, it won't stream anything from me.
Or you could leave it to the end and then you can stop. And then
Yeah.
Is that
That's well.
easier for you? All right, we'll leave
Safer.
Safer. All right, we'll leave the really interesting item then for now. Go straight on to the newsletter if you wouldn't mind continuing. Oh,
The page 17 as a newsletter. Okay, so this is one of the things that we did goes around to page 21. And every time I sort of apologise very long, but there's just so much going on. There are some things that do always appear. So I'm always going to ask for the names of the RE coordinators because they do change. And it's nice just to have that personal contact with people, means I can send things directly to them. So we'll start with the RE leaders database, then advertising the networks. Then we go on to the Berkshire hub, so I give them a little bit of an update of what's going on, but also advertising Real People, Real Faith that we launched back in April 2021. We still, to my knowledge, David, don't have the humanist video clip on Naturally, and I've asked about this. I don't know what the delay is, so I need to ask Jan again because it's ready, but it's. I know she was waiting to do the notes, but I said just get the clip up there. So
what the hold up is there?
yeah, I have a theory, but I'm so but yes, it needs to go up there because we are trying to get as much diversity of worldview in there as possible. And we know that they're being well used. I think they had some data and there was over 4,000 hits for it already.
Have we got the Catholics yet? No, we've all done the
I don't know if we have. No, I think we're still looking actually, because on one of the newsletters I listed all the ones that we've done. I didn't list them all, but I've got a record of all the ones that we've asked. And I know that there were a couple of other groups that we were engaging with, but personnel had changed again because a lot of times these are volunteers, and that's one of the issues we've had there. So always give them a little bit of an update about the hub and remind them of who it is. Then I'll update with news and sort of continuing professional development opportunities, events, courses, things like that. I'll usually try to harvest something out of RE Online, which is a really good quality controlled RE website. It's got excellent resources for background knowledge for teachers to help them with their confidence. I used to sort of edit that for a couple of years. It's really good. We've got very good people working on that. And there's a lot of primary teachers, existing teachers who are working on materials to share. And we know how important that is. So for example, there's what is religion and worldviews approach, which I've highlighted there. It's a little course, online courses, free courses they're doing, just to help teachers understand the shift from world religions model to a worldviews model. Then the regional RE hubs. This is an exciting new development. We've been doing hubs for a long time in separate areas of the country, but they've never been joined together really. There is now funding for a person to run this, and the person is Claire Clinton, who is involved in an awful lot of national things. She's also RE Online. She's also to do with NASACA. So what they're going to try to do is coordinate the hubs around the country, because we're doing all sorts of things, similar things, without knowing about it. And we've got a chance to join this together and share good practice and opportunities virtually. I'll be involved in that. I've already basically put my hat into there and said, look, if you want any help, you know where I am. And they know me too, so hopefully something good will come from that. Be able to share it with you schools. Then we have general resources, so things that we've heard about recently, some local, some national. For example, the excellent new humanism classroom clip called One Life, which was released not so long ago. Absolutely brilliant, really, really good, high quality. Shared that at one of the networks as well. British Library got some stuff on discovering sacred texts. There's just lots of different projects and things going on there, and not everything's going to strike a chord with people. That's one to give them the opportunity to know what was there. And that's basically what happens in the newsletter. So next one will be September, second week back, and no one wants to really talk about that at the moment. I'll be collating things, I already am. So then it comes up, please.
Wonderful, thank you so much. That's really full, isn't it?
It is on some months. I do try to. I can't bring you down a bit.
Well, no, I'm just thinking how useful it is to teachers. If they could. Do you think people will read it, Amanda?
I read it.
I think you do get scroll down. I think that what's that phrase? It's scroll fatigue.
Yeah.
It's another one of these new phrases that's coming that people sort of do, and then after a while think, oh, it's just what I have to. So I do try to keep it to 4 pages if possible.
Something we can ask if we're going into schools to actually say, have you seen the newsletter?
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
where does it go?
That's the other thing. So I still have people say to me that they don't get it, which is why I need that personal email. Because if it goes to the office, then it's buried in the ether half the time.
Any questions about it?
No.
A lot of work there. Thank you very much. Okay. Right. So we can. Actually, don't get too excited that we're getting through the agenda well, because the agreed syllabus conference, item 14, is quite important, and there's a fair bit, I think, there. But we will do date of next meeting.
We've got one. It's Tuesday, 31st of October. It was in the minutes. Yeah,
So,
but we haven't got a venue.
no, and it is lovely to meet together in person. I think our thinking wasn't it, but we might change our minds, that we would do 2 on Zoom and 1 in person per year. Is that still what we want to do?
I mean, personally speaking, I prefer face-to-face, personally speaking.
I do, but David lives in Bournemouth.
Yeah, I know,
so-
yeah, I know, I understand that. Yeah, I understand that.
and-
I'm just saying personally happy.
No, I totally get
We
that.
did do the mixed one when you and I turned up to the council offices because we thought it was in person
Yes.
and everybody else was on Zoom. So we could, if people are local, we could turn up at the council office, couldn't we? And have Zoom, or don't you like the mix?
No, I'm perfectly happy to try that.
Yeah, works, doesn't it?
I don't know how, does that
It
work?
works,
Yeah.
it works with the hybrid should work.
We are doing it.
We are doing it now. It's just that obviously,
It works in the council office,
Yeah,
the big
yeah,
screen
yeah.
works
Yeah.
very well. Yeah.
okay. Should we do that then?
Yeah,
So what we were doing before COVID then was meeting in council for one meeting, a place of worship for another, and a school for another. So we've done place of worship. A school, really, we're due to go to a school if we're going to continue doing that.
Well, school is everybody travelling to the venue, isn't it?
Yes,
So
yeah.
what time of year is it best to do that? Is it best to do that in October or the February or the June? So,
I would avoid February.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know what's going to happen in February. October is
Yeah.
usually okay. Claire's back. I don't know, she's not in West Berkshire.
No, she's gone.
mm.
Chris, I was just wondering.
We tend to get kicked out
Oh, we do.
at 4:45,
Well-
6.
we always used to do St John's. That was a popular school, St John's.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
We used to meet at St Nick's,
Oh, St
didn't
Nick's,
we?
maybe St Nick's.
It was
yeah,
St
yeah,
Nick's.
Sorry, St Nick's, yeah.
Because the head was our head teacher advisor, wasn't he?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
why we
yeah,
met
yeah,
there,
yeah, yeah.
because he was our advisor then.
Well, is there a religion that you're short of locally? Ask that school,
Church of England, well, Church of England.
get a toe in the door.
But could we do that as a hybrid if we were doing that, if we were into a school? I was just thinking if we did the October one as the hybrid in the council offices
Yeah.
and then take it from there for the next, because we're into the next year then, aren't we? And
That's
decide February, June.
All right, should we do that then? That's easier, then we've got all the tech at the council, haven't we?
So just before we go, just a little practical thing. Is anyone parked outside on the 1 hour zone? Because we've been here an hour now. And I know it's I'm up the road a bit where there isn't a restriction.
All right. Are they very strict outside with the 1 hour?
You never know with these ones, you know, because I got a ticket about 2 months ago.
Right.
It was on the Eid day, and
Yeah.
you know, I came in 7 o'clock and then left, and then came back in because the mayor was coming at about 10.
Yeah.
And I got out, and they thought I've been parked here from 7 till 10:30 because they checked at 7 o'clock. They came back at 10:35. So
Yeah.
I'm still fighting that ticket, you know.
Threaten them with divine wrath. That's it. Yeah, good. All right. So, okay, so 31st of October, 4:30 at WBC. Is there any other business that's not on the agenda?
Can I just
That's not
ask?
half term, is it?
I've just,
No,
had
we
a-
can't have them.
I've just had a thought, can we send Tony Linden a thank you card for all the years he's been on? Because he lost in the last election, unfortunately, by 1 vote.
And also David Marsh then? 'cause he's
Yeah,
not-
yeah, but I mean, Tony Linden was doing it for, I think, longer than me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a nice thought. Okay, yes, I'll do that.
Thank you.
If I can contact him, where would I contact him?
Oh, Freddie's address. maybe.
Well, if I can- I think I could find that out.
Yeah.
Can we fix the date for the one in February? then?
Oh, yes.
We haven't got one beyond the October.
No.
No, you're right.
So last year it was the 21st of February.
This year.
Indeed, I mean, this year. So does that lead to the 20th of February? How's that?
Sure.
Should we go for the 20th of February then? Venue to be decided, but depending on whether it might be nice to do it online.
Possible to look at the June one as well? Am I getting ahead of myself?
Oh, right. Wow.
Good to get in there because diaries get soon.
Yeah.
So the equivalent one will be June the 4th because it's a leap year next year, isn't it?
I can't do that.
We'll do that. I don't know why I'm looking at my diary. I'm gonna forget it. June the 11th.
I can't do that one either.
Oh.
Sorry. But I
So before June the 4th will be half term, won't it?
Yes, it is actually. 27th is spring break. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're into the 18th, then, aren't we?
I'm just wondering about I'm just thinking about hub stuff, David, and whether it'd be best to bring it before.
probably not a bad idea because by then something should be going on.
Yeah.
So that would be 21st of May, would be Tuesday.
It would be about then that we'd hope to be producing the syllabus, is what David means.
I can't do that, but I'm only one
Yeah,
scrutiny commission.
14th of February? 8th May, sorry. 14th of May.
Yeah.
Should we go for that then? Lovely. I think it would be good to be earlier. Right. So item 14, this is where we have our main input into the new syllabus, really. And just by way of background, we used to have a very long syllabus. Now we've had a very short one for the last 5 years. And now we're talking about what next. I was at the hub meeting where we had quite a long discussion about this, but I don't know whether you've had discussions since then, David.
I wasn't at that one. I was a bit shocked with some things that were discussed because I have some opinions on some of the syllabuses that are out there. David's right, we had a very big one, now we've got a very, very small one. Now we need something that's a little bit in between. And what I'm hearing is that people do want some support, that they want some supporting documents to go with it, which we were doing last time until COVID thumped. And everyone wasn't allowed to meet because we were gathering teachers together to work. So we did have some things done, but it sort of stalled there because then teachers had all their own stuff to do whilst being remote. So those groups didn't happen. So I think at the last hub, a few different models were circulated to see whether they might be something that would interest us. The big issue we have as a hub is who's going to do it. Because unless you have someone within, like in the past you've had an advisor who worked for the council and take that on, or you pay a consultant or someone to write one, like Bournemouth Christchurch and Bournemouth Dorset have just done. Then you get something that covers all the statutory stuff, but all the other up-to-date stuff as well. Or you buy an off-the-peg model like an RE Today, which is very popular in some parts of the country, but not one I would recommend because you don't own it. So every 5 years you pay a lot of money, you're tied into using their consultants, and at the end of it, you don't own it. So you give it back and then you have to do the same thing again. So it is, in my opinion, better if within the hub we write our own. But that, of course, is where currently no one actually is putting their hand in the ring to say, I can do that. Anne can't do it. She hasn't got capacity, and I don't think she would want to.
So this is Anne Andrews, who's the diocesan advisor
For Oxford, yeah. No, so she runs the hub, but it's something that has come to her without her really wanting to do it. And she's done a tremendous job, but she hasn't got capacity to write a syllabus, which is why they're now looking at all these different models.
Yes.
But at some stage, someone has to say, this is the person who's in charge of it, this is what we want it to look like, get a group of people together and do it. It's easier said than done.
So this is a little bit difficult, to be honest. We were given, at the hub meeting, we were shown 3 syllabuses. Sandwell in Birmingham, I think it was Norfolk.
Yeah.
Bucks was certainly, Buckinghamshire was one.
Yeah.
And we were actually asked to come to our SAPRE meetings and say, you know, what do you like? Because we're thinking we might buy something like this. David then raised his concerns about, as he's just said, but the alternative to that is actually finding our own person. Now we have got all this money, you know, we've
Sorry,
got.
Jeff, sorry, are we supposed to be streaming this?
Is it on? Or?
Yeah, on.
Yeah,
It's
I
on.
think this is.
Well, it's our general
It
business.
is now.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I just wasn't sure.
Yeah. So we've got our 5,000. I know that Anne has got other funds from other places. So there's a fund for it. The question is, who's, as you say, who's actually going to take the lead and write this thing?
And how much does it cost for somebody to write it?
Depends who you ask, I guess.
It
No,
does
it's
depend.
hours, isn't it? In hours.
Yeah, it does depend who you ask, because it depends on what sort of job you want. What we need is something that's going to cover all that's changed in RE in the last 5 years, which is quite a lot.
Yeah.
And yet provide a document that's user-friendly for teachers who really want to know what to teach, when to teach, how to teach. So Bournemouth Christchurch and Paul, to give you an example, they commissioned Jan Lever, who was a long-standing RE consultant and was originally from the area. So she put in a bid with her consultants, one of whom was me. I actually didn't do a great deal on it. And that package was done. Then Dorset paid a little bit to BCP in order to have a Word version of it and change it to suit them. So in a sense, all the hard work was already done. Dorset then just paid towards it to create their own version of it. And that's a model that we also have. you know, we could do something similar to that.
We did mention this in the February meeting, and I thought that was a really good idea because the PAN in Berkshire, we're in this rather unusual situation of having, is it the 5 or the 6? Six different groups trying to come together. And I really think that that's going to be the massive difficulty, is getting these 6 groups. So obviously you went to a meeting and you presented with 3, but you weren't presented with that one, with the pool one. So really, in a sense, if we're going to put that one up and say we pay for this one and we tweak it, you know, we ask if we can give a contribution towards it and tweak it for PAN Berkshire, I think that's the way forward, because I've been waiting for Anne Andrews to say, well, go on, then I'll do it. But she clearly can't. She hasn't. She just can't.
I just don't think she has.
No, I don't think
she's done it before either, and it is a peculiar animal.
Yeah.
Which is why we looked at Buckinghamshire, because that's Bill Moore, who's another name in the RE world, but I know he wouldn't want to get involved again, he's just on Milton Keynes as well.
Yeah.
Norfolk was Catherine Wright, chair of Cummins and Gabriel's, she was involved in that. So there's lots of different models.
Yeah.
But I could circulate the BCP one so that you can see it. It's 109 pages long, but it is going up to date. And
David, do you think that would be a good fit with us with a tweak? Because you know Berkshire very well.
That's the point.
Yeah,
Is it?
I think it can. And I think what a good syllabus should do is cover the statutory bit so that everyone knows where they stand about what needs to be done, but then give choices. So what the BCP one does is give some statutory stuff, but then also a load of guidance about the inquiry model, sort of how, you know, how to plan and how to teach, but also some specific examples of questions that teachers might use in their teaching. And then that helps them plan, because what we did last time was give them just a few.
We did.
And we did that deliberately because that's what people wanted then. But when you're presented with a blank page as a teacher, that's liberating, but also scary, because you're ultimately responsible, you need a bit of guidance. So there's a big pile of questions in BCP for each religion and worldview. And then basically people choose those if they want, or they design their own if they want. And it's got all the principal worldviews, including humanism, in there with guidance about where you should teach what. And I just think as a model, it's worth us looking at. So
well, I do. I really do. I want to push that today because we were here in February and we haven't moved forward. I don't personally. I don't think we've moved forward.
No, we haven't. We've kind of stalled because of. But can I just ask the resource question? Because one of the benefits of using the RE Today model, as we were sold it, was that it dovetails so nicely with understanding Christianity, which is such a popular resource for teaching Christianity. So what about the BCP model? Would that
it does, yeah.
Easily...
What happens with the understanding Christianity, if you haven't seen this, it is a massive resource. Have you seen it, David?
Yeah.
The folder was
sorry, I'm starting. Yes, I'm starting.
It's absolutely huge. Have you used it?
No, we don't.
You know, right. Well, there was a big push on it, and I'm not being disrespectful here at all. Church of England wrote it. A lot of other people came along and had a look at what they were doing, like Discovery RE people. A lot of schools use that as well. And a lot of dioceses have been quite active in saying to people, you must use this. If you're a church school, you must use this. They don't have to, but it is all there, but it is very weighty. Personally, I've seen a lot of it taught. There's some great stuff in there and some stuff that I have to say isn't great, and that's the feedback I'm hearing. But the syllabus that BCP's got basically says, if you want to use understanding Christianity, that's fine. If you want to use that for your Christianity stuff, and that's what a lot of schools do, and then they might use Discovery RE or something similar for their other religions and worldviews. So I don't think it's a problem. I mean, RE Today will work with understanding Christianity because basically the same people wrote it. And you do have a bit of an issue of a small group of people having a big pot of money to do all the work.
Yeah.
And that's my concern as well. It's a little bit of a monopoly.
Sometimes a stupid outsider can ask that question. So we haven't got a lot of money. We're in a hurry. There's some good documents out there. What have we heard earlier in the meeting? We're short of we're not worried about the schools and organisations that do this well. It's everybody else. So if there's a cheaper way of buying a good document which does what we want it to do and has a lot of resource attached to it, then surely that's what you want. Or what do I know?
Yes, so that would be an argument in favour of buying the RE Today model. I
don't know what the model's called. I'm agreeing with this lady here. A model.
No, I think
No,
what
the BCP is
that's
the,
BCP council model is
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you're recommending, I think, isn't it?
is that the pool one?
Bournemouth Crashers.
Yeah, Bournemouth Crashers and pool. I just feel we've got an affinity with that sort of, but then maybe I'm not thinking, maybe I'm thinking South of England, I don't know. But I rely on what David's telling us, you see, because he's involved with all of these different groups.
Yeah, I have no vested interest in it other than I've seen them and I know what can work. And what
Yeah,
we have, as we know, across the whole Pan Berkshire, we've got everything from ultra rural to urban and so on. So we've got diversity and no diversity. And so we need a syllabus that's going to be able to reflect that.
yeah,
I think BCP will do that, but RE Today would as well. But my concern there is 5 years' time,
yeah,
you've got to stump up the same money again. Whereas we might be able to, in 5 years' time, adopt something that we do ourselves now and just tweak it a little bit and save it that money.
We'd still need a person, wouldn't we, to do the.
We do need someone in charge of it. That's why you either buy someone in.
I think that's what our money's for. Really.
Or well, that is, and particularly as each SACRA is coming together, you can easily do that. But